we're going to be doing a part. Huh? The compeller. What is that? Like a compeller um, one has the force pattern. So, as always, we're going to look at the linguistic thing first. So, there are, think about like something that's colossal in size. Strength of the might, the power of playing or something just beyond your scope. It's strength that cannot be broken. That's what it's about. So, in Islamic era, they do poetry. They use this word as like judgment. This person took over something mind. And it was used as some person. So it comes Quran only once. The Hashar names over here already. We've done Malik, Salam, and Aziz. So let's see how does it pertain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So how does it it basically means that Allah has the power and the strength and the dominance, the power and the might and the strength.
I guess I think 5%. Um, yeah, yeah. Well, so when I think of past or the past house, yeah, something about it. So, yeah, those yeah, color, house, yeah. So, I just want to go back to that. Yeah, but the plot. Yeah. So I think something not
He is not breakable. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Because he can compel something to happen, right? And actually, compeller and restorer, if you think about it, might have a connection in the sense that it compels things to restore themselves. See what I'm trying to say, right? So there is an element of compelling when it comes to when you talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's strength and might. He's able to compel things because it's obviously more than a broken bone that he can restore, right? So compels events, force, to make them restore themselves to the original position or to another position. So the compeller, the restorer, who has all under his control. And the reason why I wrote all is because it could be so all under his control. So that means each and every atom weight, right? So we're not just talking about people. We're not just talking about objects. We're not just talking about events. We're talking about anything that our mind has the capacity of imagining. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all under his control and he does as he wills and he fixes any situation as he pleases. And this is where our belief in the fact comes in that whatever he fixes as he pleases is for the better, right? Like how we all say that, all the affairs of a woman have khair in it, have betterment in it, right? So, yeah, you might say, oh, what could be the wisdom of getting that thing fixed like that, that didn't, that doesn't mean anything, or that didn't benefit in any way. But only Allah knows what the ultimate wisdom behind that action was. Moving forward, we're going to look at uh, each of these separately. So, like we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does as He wills. What does that mean? It's a glitch. So, إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا, when He decides to do something. إنما means when. Whenever He decides to do something. أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. When He wills something to be, His way is to say be, kun, fayakun, and it is. So the way He gets things to happen is very different from how the human capacity is to get something to happen, right? When humans need to make something, what are all the elements that they would probably have to, what would they need to make anything? Maybe you're talking about making like a table. Okay, you need to have a plan, you have to envision. What else? You need raw materials, right? Maybe you don't have the skill to make a table, so what would you need? Either you learn yourself or these days you outsource, right? So you outsource. So you need all these factors or combinations of things will come together, and then you will make a table. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He obviously He has no need to gather anything. He says kun, be, yakun, and it just appears. So everything that we see before us, I'm obviously talking about the man-made things. Sorry, I'm obviously talking about. I'm not talking about the man-made things right now. I'm obviously talking about the natural things that come into existence. That He says be, and they become like that. So that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, like I said, He's Al-Jabbar. He does as He wills, and He makes things happen as He pleases. Moving forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَغَيْرَ دِينِ اللَّهِ يَبْغُونَ وَلَهُ أَسْلَمَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. Do they seek anything other than submission to Allah? Everyone in the heavens and earth submits to Him. Now, this is very important. طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا, willingly or unwillingly. Even if you don't like it, if you sometimes we have something really exciting or important in the morning, right? And sometimes we are not looking forward to the morning, the evaluation report or report card or something of that matter. But everything happens at the time that Allah ordains it to happen. Can you move time faster? Or can you move time slower? You can't, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that do they seek anything other than the submission of Allah? When everything in the universe is willingly or unwillingly submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the non-believers, even the kuffar, even the mushrikeen, the pagans, what are they doing? Can they make night into day and day into night? Can they, just change time? Can they even time travel something, anything, right? So even those people who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to submit themselves to the fact that He is Al-Jabbar. He has complete control and everything is under His control. Uh, the other way that He is Al-Jabbar is every time there's glitches, do you guys see it happening here too? Oh, it's just happening in the laptop. It's all funny. So the other way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also the compeller is that He's the rule maker, right? So for the people who are in the fold of Islam, they have to follow certain rules, right? There are several. I mean, we all know that there's several things. This is just one example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوفوا بالعقد أحلت لكم بهيمة الأنعام إلا ما يتلى عليكم غير محل الصيد وأنتم حرم إن الله يحكم ما يريد. You who believe, fulfill your obligations. Livestock animals are lawful as food for you, with the exception of what is about to be announced to you. And the whole ayah about what kind of animals you can eat, what kind of animals you cannot eat, comes after this. You are forbidden to kill game. Game is basically what you hunt while you're on pilgrimage, right? We know that when we go for Hajj or Umrah, we're not supposed to, go and what is that word? Hunting. Yeah, so you're not supposed to hunt when you are wearing your ihram. Allah commands what He will. This is just an example of how Allah is the compeller in terms of He's the rule maker. I mean, it's up to you if you're going to fulfill this obligation or not. But he's the one who's making the rules. He's the one who's compelling people in terms of there's no other uh, Sharia that's going to come. There's no other rules or no other set of rules or no other book that's going to come and tell you something otherwise. Also, Allah does not force anyone into guidance. So even though he's a compeller, right? And even though we've talked about him being a rule maker, but does he force anyone into guidance? No, right? Whoever becomes a Muslim through their own free will, right? So this is interesting that you see Allah as the compeller, but He's not going to force someone to enter into the fold of Islam, right? Why is that? What could be the reason why he didn't do that? Then we would be like angels who would have no control over anything, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقُلْ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ Now the truth has come from your Lord. Let those who wish to believe in do so, let those who wish to reject do so. So we talked about this and I can't remember which name it was, but many of you who attended my previous classes, we've talked about how the chiefs of Quraysh, once they came to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they said that there is no place for us to sit with you because you're always surrounded by poor people. The Sahaba Safa or other, Sahaba that weren't that well off. And so we feel like, it's not dignified. We can't come and sit with you, right? So upon hearing that complaint, there were some, companions who suggested to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in their own, out of their own wisdom, whatever they understood. They said, why don't you have a different masjid for the chief, all the these people come and see you and they don't like to sit with the Sahaba. So why don't you have a different gathering for them? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah and he said that, the truth is from the Lord. It's up to you. If they want to believe, they'll believe. If they don't want to believe, then too bad. Right? You shouldn't have to change the way you have your setup going on. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, after this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاسْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ Be content with those people who believe in Allah. Wasbir. Wasbir nafsaka. Be content with those people who believe in Allah. Be okay with sitting with them. You don't have to, bend your ways and come up with like another set of rules to cater to them. Wasbir nafsaka. Be content. Be at peace with the ones who, remember Allah at all times. This surah, we, read it a lot. It's going to be Allah. Comes. What does it say? Gosh, look, my screen is not even aligning with this. I don't know what's going on today. Yeah, look at now it's aligning. Okay, so it says, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Okay, let's break this ayah up, okay? We're still talking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not force anyone into guidance. Just to give you a context. So, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. So, taswiya means to proportion or to balance or to perfect. So, if you translate it, it means by the soul and how he formed it. Okay? Think about, we've spoken about this earlier too, about how our body has been formed. We talked about the ear, we talked about the eyes, right? Other things too, like I remember I was reading something and someone was, it said, can you try to pick something up if you didn't have a thumb? Like if you can try to pick that can up with just your four fingers, be able to, right? Because you just this, you need it so badly to be able to grasp something, right? Something as small as that, or like how taswir, like I said, to proportion, like this side is equal to this side. So small things, the hand, like your hand is exactly the size of your face vertically. Anybody know that? Like a fun fact. Like from your tip of the finger to your palm, to your hand. Such small things. We don't even think about them, right? What was the point of approaching man like that? Do you think like I think people who've been in my class before, I always say, what could it have been if I had like holes for a nose instead of like an elegant shaped nose or just one eye maybe like the show for aliens. Like what was the point of proportioning? What was the point of beautifying? You know, the point is that we'd look pleasing to other people, right? You'd look pleasing to yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. So we would even the animal kingdom, there's beautification in that too, even like insects, everything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and wa over here, the harf wow is for swearing. Okay, like I swear, not the cursing swearing, but like I take oath, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, by, by the soul and the one who has perfected it, the one who has proportioned it, the one who has balanced it out. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. So look at the word فَأَلْهَمَهَا. If you break it up, it comes from the word ilham. Does anybody has heard that word? Two speakers over here? What is it? Inspiration. But we use it a lot in my language, like hamen, ham, hua, like we just like it just came upon us, it just dawned upon us, we were inspired, right? So ilham basically means, it's cast in your heart, basically. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, okay, wait, let's keep that thought. So we've broken down it's cast into your heart. What kind of inspired? Fujura wa taqwa. Fujur means open, what do you call it? Open transgression. Okay? To be openly evil, right? And taqwa, fighting. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, now go back, the soul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected and inspired it and cast in it the ability to differentiate between jur, between oppression and fighting, taqwa. Okay? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Verily, the one who zakaha means to purify, internally or externally. So the one who purified internally or externally, qad aflaha. Verily, he succeeded. Okay? وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Dasaha means somebody, like literally, dasaha means to bury into the ground. Okay? So the soul who just buried itself in evil, what happened to that soul? Khaba. Obviously, it's like the opposite of success. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the Allah, it's beyond his dignity to compel anyone to believe in him. He's given you all these signs externally, and he's given you all these signs internally. He's passed it in your heart. Now it's up to you whether you take the right path and you believe in him or you go into open conflict. It's beyond his dignity to force anyone or compel anyone to believing in him. Okay? Sorry? Yes, it was. What kind of compelling was that? Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically compel him? Or did he create the environment in a way that Umar didn't have a choice? Did Umar have a choice? There were two ways he could have gone, right? One is what he did, alhamdulillah. But what is the other thing he could have done, right? So he had that choice. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala force him into choosing anything? No. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He inspired him. He casted him apart. What? What did we hear? What did he just said? Umar heard something, right? His sister was what? Quran. So the Quran, through the Quran, Allah inspired him. That's a great question, Maria. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's an example of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired Umar radiallahu anh to be able to see the fujur and the taqwa of the soul. Okay? Moving forward, this is another interesting ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, now we're talking about the fact that it's beyond his dignity to compel people, right? But if he wanted to, everybody would have been Muslim. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَآتَيْنَا كُلَّ نَفْسٍ هُدَاهَا. If it had been our will, we would certainly have given every soul its true guidance. I mean, do you think there would be any hardship in making every single person in the universe Muslim? What could possibly be hard in that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So he said, if it had been our will, we could have certainly given every soul its true guidance. But we didn't. Instead, we gave him the capacity to choose. And that's the difference between us and angels, like you were saying in the beginning, right? That's the difference. Because he inspired us, he gave us the ability to choose ourselves. And then he says, أَفَلَمْ يَأْسِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أي أن لو يشاء الله لهدانا الناس جميعا. Do the believers not realize that if God had so willed, He could have guided all mankind? There's a very interesting story behind this. This is Al-Ra'd 31. So if you go back to 30, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if there were to be a Quran which mountains could be moved, birds flattered, or the dead made to speak, it would have been this one. But everything is truly in God's hands. There's a story behind us. The Quraysh came to Rasulullah one day while he was sitting in the haram, and they made three demands. They said, if you can get your God to fulfill these three conditions, we'll bring Iman. So what were they? Firstly, they asked him, they said the land of Makkah, it's too short in terms of its space. We don't have any space. We're surrounded by mountains. So ask your God to move the mountains back and so that we can have land to cultivate it, to farm, to have poultry. And they gave the example of Dawud alayhi salam. The Quran said that Dawud alayhi salam, the mountains were subjected to him, and when he would praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mountains would move. So if you claim that you are, the true messenger of Allah, then move the mountains back and give us more space. So that was one condition. The other thing they asked for was, they said, like Sulaiman alayhi salam had command over the wind, just like that, and those winds, he would, have you heard the story of like how he would, uh, the winds would be in his control so that he would be able to move from one place to another, and greater cover in a shorter amount of time. So they said just like Sulaiman alayhi salam had the capacity, had the ability to control winds, just like that, you control the winds and you shorten the different distance between Makkah and Syria and Yemen so that we'd be able to trade better. So that was the second condition. And every condition they reference it to a previous uh, prophet. Why are they doing that? They want to prove it can happen, and it's almost sort of oh, like Sulaiman alayhi salam could do it. Like Dawud alayhi salam could do it. Like, can you do it? Yeah, go ahead, Asya. Trade more, the trade ones. So they in that time, the winds or the mountains. What is trade? The commerce. Yeah, the trade, like buying and selling. So one they wanted the mountains to move back so that there would be more farmland. Have vast expanse and they'd be able to farm. That was one demand. The other demand was that get the wind to listen to you and shorten the distance between Makkah and Syria and Makkah and Yemen. Because Syria and Makkah, Syria and Yemen are two different countries, and they used to go Yemen and so they used to travel to these places. Okay. Travel. Yeah, to shorten it. Yeah, to shorten it every time so that the distance is shortened. No, it was a caravan. And the third thing that they demanded for, so that was two. The third thing they said, you know how Isa alayhi salam used to bring back the dead? Well, we want you to bring back our forefather. We want you to bring him back from the dead so that we can ask him, is this Arab prophet true or not? Okay, so those were their three demands. So listening to this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah. He said, if there were ever to be a Quran with which mountains could be moved, you understand the context now? With mountains could be moved. The earth shattered, because obviously the wind is not going to do it. The earth would have to be sort of condensed, right? Or the dead made to speak. It would be this Quran. If there was ever anything that could make these things happen, it would be through this Quran. But everything's truly in God's hands. If He wants to do it, He will, right? So hearing this, the Allah Subhanahu wa Taala revealed this ayah. Let's go back to so did it move? Okay, so what happened after this? I'm trying to go back. Okay, so in response, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala revealed this ayah. After hearing these demands, some Sahaba said, "Oh, good for the Muslims. We, Rasulullah and Barak will fulfill so that entire Makkah, can you imagine? The Quraysh were saying that not only we will bring Iman, we will follow you, but we'll get everybody in Makkah to listen to you. So some of the Sahara said, why don't you make dua to Allah and ask Him to, listen to the Quraysh and fulfill these demands, and then, who's going to stop us? Like the whole Makkah is going to be Muslims. In response to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed this. Do the believers not realize that if God had so willed, He would have guided all mankind? Why are you like, yes, means like, don't be, uh, like, don't be sad. Like why you don't trust God? You don't trust Allah? If He wanted to, He would do it. But that's not the point. These people are not really wanting to believe. The way they're asking, the kinds of demands they're making, why are they making them? They don't really want to believe, right? So just bringing context to the whole ayah. Uh, Lastly, when we talk about al-Jabbar, we use it as something that's praiseworthy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But the same word, it can be praiseworthy for a person, right? If somebody is a Jabir, what does that mean? Like you said, breaking, right? That makes him a tyrant, right? So why is that so? Why is it that the same word, like for example, Ar-Rahim, okay? Second, there are certain characteristics, there are certain names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that obviously a man cannot match, but like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, people can be merciful too, right? Al-Ghani, people can be generous too, right? Al-Wudud, people can be, loving too, right? But there's certain characteristics that are only meant for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are praiseworthy only for Him. And if you put it on a person, they're not going to be praiseworthy. So when it comes to being the Jabir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually deserving of ownership and rulership. That is why He's Al Jabbar. Try giving, that term, what is it? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right? Why is it? Because as soon as you get control, you just start like, and this is something that I was saying this to my, not you, but the other day, I have 4 kids. So I was telling them the other day that, when I was a kid, and I kept telling them, when you guys have kids of your own, when you guys have kids. And I was thinking to myself, when I was a kid and my mom and my dad would say something to me, I would obviously not like it. And then I'd say, well, when I have kids of my own, I'll never let them do this. I let them do whatever I want. Well, what happened as soon as I got power, right? As soon as I got power, and like when they say why, I'm like because I said so. Or, if I say no, they're like, why? And I'm like, no is a complete sentence. There's a period after it. This is not a conversation. What? Why? It's a power, thing, right? I'm like, oh, I'm the mom. I can do whatever I want. So that's the point. Like, you are, if you get power, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. When you get power, what's going to happen? Thank you. You're going to get power hungry. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, why do you act like tyrants whenever you attack someone? Whenever you attack, you look at all the wars going on. You're always going to find man has gone beyond, the zulm has gone beyond that level. Whenever you're going to attack, you're never going to, it's not going to be an eye for an eye. You're going to do a head for eye, the whole face for one eye, right? Because you're going to become a tyrant. You're going to become the Jabbar, and that's not praiseworthy for you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives another example. He says, these were the Ad. They rejected their Lord's signs, disobeyed his messengers, and followed the command of every obstinate tyrant. Kulli Jabbarin Anid. They became Jabbar. They became Anid. Yes, sorry, I had a question. Go ahead. We're all very excited. Actually, whatever, right? Good point, Maria. Yes, sir. Mhm. Are you trying to get married? You're still going to school tomorrow, you know that, right? As long as that part is clear. So she's got it very well. Yes. Okay. My son went to the doctor the other day and he's like, "Oh, what's your favorite subject?" He's like, and he's like, "Okay, anything else?" No, I hate everything. It's like, okay, I just go to school because I like my friends. I'm like, well, at least he's honest. There's nothing he likes about it. He's like, I'm just going to make friends. Thank God he's blessed with a good brain. Otherwise, I don't know what I'd do. Okay. So lastly, we always try to do a dua in the end. Some of you might, I don't know what's wrong with this laptop. I can't read. Anybody familiar with this dua? We usually, and there's a masnoon that you read in between the two sujood, right? So it says, Allahumma khfirli, Allah, forgive me, warhamni, bless me with mercy, wajburni. Now look at this. It says rectify, right? Because remember we talked about Allah being the restorer. So that's where it's coming in. The jabar over here is not it's not like saying, compel me to do things. It's to rectify me, to correct my affairs. Right? Have you guys seen that meme? It says Oh Allah or Dear Allah, and then it has a lot of alphabets just thrown together and it doesn't make sense. You can't read anything. It's just like a bunch of Scrabble words thrown together. And then in the end it says Amin. You know, like it's like whatever is in my heart, just fix it, just correct it, just help me, guide me, whatever. Like, Amin. So it always reminds me of that. Guru, rectify me, wahdi, guide me, warzuqni, give me my sustenance, give me my risk. Okay, so I hope that maybe you can take a picture. I'm thinking, I don't know how many of you are in the WhatsApp group, but I'm thinking that I can probably take pictures of the bras that you can put in the group so that you can have them for later. And that's all I have for you for today. And this is the WhatsApp group again if anybody wants it. Subhanakallah. So sure. Well, yeah. What is